Today we're going to talk about Standard 8, which is annotating. The long name for the standard is obtaining and evaluating and communicating information, but really a lot of the meaning comes from the annotations we do on text. And what this means in simpler terms is we as scientists need to be able to read and understand what we're reading in order to be able to use what other scientists have written in our arguments, in our explanations, in our models. So a key part of understanding is really being able to connect to text and ask questions about text. So today we're going to focus on this A, SEP8A annotations. So the big idea is when we find our article, or if we've been assigned an article, for every part of the text, in order to get mastery, we want to include a higher level question or connection. And down below here are some examples. You can also just Google higher level questioning or look up videos about connecting or annotating to text. When we talk about connecting to text, we want to do a higher level connection, right? We want to make sure that we have explanations for why we're connecting to the text to really be able to show how we understand. So today we're looking at an article from Newsela. The article is titled, "We're Sick of It, Anger Over Police Killings Shatters US." So sometimes before I even start my annotations, I'll just kind of go through and make sure I identify each part of the text. So here I've just put 2 dashes next to the title. I know I'm going to annotate that. I'm going to do 2 dashes here next to the caption. This is the byline. It's telling us who wrote it, so we can skip this one unless it speaks to us. Again, here, here, here. And I would just keep going through if I was going to do this entire article and make sure I tagged every heading, every title, and every paragraph. So that lets me know that's where I'm looking for an annotation. Remember, part of the being able to annotate is understanding. So in addition to annotations, even if this is not being graded for a vocabulary grade, an SEP8V grade, you might need to go through and record some of the vocabulary words because it'll impact how much you're able to connect to it. So I'm going to read it just first, and then as we come up with vocabulary words, we'll get to plug those into our dictionary. So we're sick of it. Anger over police killings shatters US. An aerial view of volunteers cleaning trash and debris in Minneapolis, Minnesota, May 30th, 2020, after riots over the death of George Floyd, an unarmed black man, at the hands of police. Photo by Lockman, Verl, Ubel, and Anadulo Agency via Getty Images. So already I've discovered some unknown words in here, and then even some names that appear like unknown words, but we just want to remind ourselves if it starts with a large letter, a capital letter, it could be a proper noun. So in this case, I think it's the photographer and the agency or the company that maybe controls the photographer's company. So we're going to just begin before and just tag these words. Sometimes I highlight them. Sometimes I just automatically put them into a vocabulary chart, and that's what I'm going to go to today. So every time I'm reading and I see an unknown word, a great way to develop vocabulary is to insert a vocabulary chart. So I go to Insert Table, and then I'm just going to assume there's going to be about 7 today, but there could be more, and then I'll add those in. When I insert them here, oh, I did too many. I actually need 3 rows, so I can even delete this column. So I right-clicked on the column I don't want, and then I delete the column, not the whole table, just the column, and I come up with 3. So again, this is going to be for the word. The first word was aerial that I found. And we're going to use a special dictionary like we do for the vocabulary, which is the Collins Dictionary. One great way to remember that. Colin Kaepernick, Phil Collins, thinking about things that start with Collins, right? Okay, so this word needs to go into Collins Dictionary before I can really explain what I understand about that. So aerial, let's just look up aerial. It says, talked about aerial attacks, aerial photographs. I think that's what they were talking about. An aerial is a device that receives television or radio signals. Aerial bombardment. I'm looking for a definition. Aerial, video, and pronunciation. Let's see. Aerial. But what does it mean? So keep looking. In, by the air, like air, light as air. High, up, lofty. I think that's the one that they're trying to talk about. Sometimes when I get stuck, I'll go to Google Images just to confirm. So right now, just typing in the word and then going to Google and then going to Images just to confirm, because I think it means high up. Oh, but these guys are talking about like an aerial cartwheel, aerial map. Okay, so I'm connecting with it's a high up image. So I'm going to come back to the SCP-8 and just say high up, like a photo taken from high up. And then our non-example, to make sure we understand it, aerial, like a low down, that might be like a close-up or maybe a slow-mo motion. I'm just going to say a close-up picture, because this is the opposite of what I think aerial is. So continue to go on. Aerial volunteers cleaning trash and debris. Debris is another one. What's the name of the dictionary again? Collins Dictionary. Type that in. And this is all so I can connect to the text. Debris, piece from something that has been destroyed. That looks good. Okay, and then the non-example again is maybe something that hasn't been destroyed. So I think of like maybe a cake before it's eaten. And this is just my own definition. And non-example, it makes sense to me. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else, but you want to maybe include a reason because it is really nice, not destroyed. Okay. So let's read that again. So aerial meaning high up, debris meaning like something that's destroyed. Okay, so a high up view of volunteers cleaning up trash and things that are destroyed in Minneapolis, Minnesota, May 30th, after riots over the death of George Floyd, an unarmed black man at the hands of police. Okay, so I think I understand what this is saying. This is saying that this is a picture of where there were people gathering about George Floyd, who was not armed, but killed by police. So when I think about connecting to this text, a lot of things come up. So looking at questions I have, right? Evaluating questions, comparing not just who, what, where when questions, but really trying to think of what is happening. So I might ask a question, compare. So we could compare the mayor's response in Minnesota to the mayor's response in Florida when Ahmaud Arbery was killed. One thing that we want to make sure we do is highlight the color so we know that it stands out to other people reading it, that this is not the article. So we know that this has been annotated. If you are sharing an article with somebody, you can also just insert it as a comment, but this won't work if you make a PDF and then publish it. So the comments here, like if I put this in a comment, I Control C this, and then I also added it here. Oh, sorry, I have to move this over so you can see it. Oh, there's a thing that says comment here, or I could do this one right here so you guys can see it. And then press that. And then that'll show up here, but this comment won't publish if I PDF it. So as I keep going, I would continue posting questions or connections. Over the weekends, tens of thousands of people marched peacefully all over the country. They marched to protest the death of George Floyd. He was an unarmed black man who died on May 25th. He died after a white police officer pressed his knee on the man's neck in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I can connect to this article because I have been reading about the incident in the newspaper, and I feel confused and angry why this police officer would not stop hurting Mr. Floyd when he asked for help. Again, I would make sure to highlight it and go through the whole article, continuing to annotate. We use this skill to make sure that we're reading deeply. Later, if I needed to find evidence from this article, I would know I would already have checked for unknown words, making sure I find definitions that make sense. And then I would ask questions of the text so that then at the end or the culmination of reading the article, if I needed to use evidence, I could remember the place where I put certain connections. I might even be able to use some of these connections in my reasoning. So for science, reading in any subject area is helpful. So sports, current events, really we just need students to read so that they're really built up at the skill of practicing this annotation. So this video was all about SEP8 annotating, and the goal is that students are able to connect to text or ask questions.